On the edge of the village, there stood a little cottage with ivy climbing up its stone walls and flowers blooming in the front yard. It was a cosy, inviting place, and it belonged to the kindest old lady you could ever meet. Her name was Mrs. Puddlewick, and she was known for always having a warm smile and a hearty laugh. One bright and sunny morning, as Mrs. Puddlewick was stirring a large pot of fresh milk on the stove, a little cat with soft ginger fur was watching her from the window. His name was Whiskers, and he was a very curious cat who loved to explore. Today, however, he wasn't exploring the woods or chasing butterflies. Today, he was sitting on the windowsill, peering in with wide, interested eyes. "Meow," Whiskers purred, his tail flicking back and forth as he watched the old lady carefully. Mrs. Puddlewick looked up from her pot of milk and chuckled. "Well, well, if it isn't Whiskers peeking through the window again, I see you're very interested in my milk, aren't you?" Whiskers blinked, as if to say, "Of course I am." He could smell the warm milk from outside, and it made his little tummy rumble. "Would you like a taste?" Mrs. Puddlewick asked kindly. "I suppose one little bit won't hurt." She opened the window just a crack, and Whiskers sprang gracefully onto the sill, his paws light as a feather. He slipped through the window with ease and padded over to the pot of milk, his nose twitching with delight. Just as Whiskers was about to take a sip, something very unexpected happened. The milk in the pot started to glow. At first, Whiskers thought it was the sunlight playing tricks. But no, there was definitely something magical about that milk. Mrs. Puddlewick, too, was startled. "My goodness, it seems the milk has turned into something special today," she said, eyes wide with surprise. Suddenly, the milk bubbled up, and out from the pot floated a little fairy. She had sparkling wings and a dress made of petals, and she giggled as she fluttered around the kitchen, her light laughter filling the room. "Well, well, what have we here?" the fairy said in a musical voice. "A curious cat and a lovely old lady, both interested in my special milk." Whiskers looked up at the fairy with wide eyes. "Meow?" he asked, as if to say, "Who are you?" The fairy twirled in the air. "I am the milk fairy, and every now and then I like to sprinkle a bit of magic into the milk to see who needs a little adventure, and today it's your turn." Whiskers' whiskers twitched with excitement. An adventure! He loved adventures. Mrs. Puddlewick laughed warmly. "Oh my, what a delightful surprise! What kind of adventure do you have in mind?" The fairy smiled mischievously. "Why, a journey to the land of cream, of course. But first you'll need a few magical items to help you along the way." With a flick of her tiny fingers, the fairy conjured a tiny golden spoon and a bowl made of spun sugar. She handed them to Mrs. Puddlewick. "Use these to gather a little bit of cream from the land of cream. It's the sweetest place in the world." Without wasting a moment, Mrs. Puddlewick and Whiskers followed the fairy out the door and into the garden. The milk pot, now gleaming with a soft golden light, hovered in the air just above them, guiding their way. "Hold tight, Whiskers," Mrs. Puddlewick called as she placed the spoon into the milk. The next thing they knew, the ground beneath their feet began to shimmer, and they found themselves floating through a soft cloud of sweetness. They arrived in the land of cream, a magical place where everything, trees, flowers, even the sky, was made of the creamiest, fluffiest milk imaginable. The air smelled of honey and vanilla, and the ground was soft like marshmallow clouds. Whiskers couldn't believe his eyes. "Meow!" he exclaimed, his tail twitching in excitement. "This is the best adventure ever!" Mrs. Puddlewick chuckled and filled the golden spoon with the sweetest cream she'd ever tasted. The fairy appeared beside them, clapping her tiny hands. "You've done it. Now let's return home with the cream, and you'll have a treat that no one else in the village has ever tasted." With one final twirl of the fairy's wings, They were back in Mrs. Puddlewick's cosy cottage, the magical cream safely stored in the sugar bowl. Whiskers licked his lips, eager for a taste. "You did a wonderful job, Whiskers," Mrs. Puddlewick said, gently patting his head. "Now, I think we deserve a little treat, don't you?" She poured the creamy goodness into 2 bowls, one for herself and one for Whiskers, and they both sat down by the warm fire, sipping their sweet treat. "Thank you for the adventure, dear fairy," Mrs. Puddlewick said with a smile, and the fairy, who had appeared just as suddenly as she had disappeared, gave them both a wink.